All right, look, guys, there is still a very real possibility that AMC rallies big after earnings. Now, this might be weird to say because AMC stock is up 1% right now, but typically AMC does fall after earnings and then rally a couple weeks later. Oh, sometimes a couple days later, sometimes a couple weeks later. I shouldn't just generically say a couple weeks. Sometimes it's only a couple of days. Sometimes the rally starts pretty much instantaneously after earnings. And if this pattern holds true that we're seeing right now, that's going to lead to another rally. Now, notice today you're seeing a hammer candle yet again. The last time this just happened, and it was just recently, April 24th, this happened, AMC stock has rallied from the low of that wick to now about 30% in just the last 8 trading days. So it's 9 trading days. So it's been a pretty good rally so far. But based off of what we got today and what we're seeing right now, this rally could be just getting started. So we have a lot to talk about here in this video. That's what we're going to get into, this rally with AMC stock that I still think is coming. I still think you are going to get a rally, and I'm going to make my case here. Let me know what you guys think about this down below in the comment section. If you have anything to add to this, if you have a differing opinion, let me know down below in the comment section. So first things first, AMC earnings, when it came down to it, their EPS, their loss per share was 13 cents. Their loss per share, including one-time payments, was 17 cents per share. And that was on the estimate. Now, 13 cents per share as a loss was much better than the estimate. But still, the bottom line is AMC is losing like $230 million in 3 months. That's a lot of money. Now, that's based off of 17 cents of EPS. 13 cents of EPS is a loss closer to about $170-ish million. So that is more, I guess, maybe I should phrase it as that is not as bad as the 17 cents per share loss that the total loss was for this quarter. And based off of AMC's earnings, while they were not as good as what they could have been, they were not as bad as what they could have been as well. And that tends to be a bigger focus in this market right now, is our earnings just not getting dramatically worse. And that doesn't look to be the case with AMC. As we reported in the last video, this was the second consecutive quarter in a row with positive adjusted EBITDA. Now, that is not free cash flow. That does not mean AMC is at a place where they can support their business without outside funding. They're still a little ways away. It looks like the box office will be improving. So on a fundamental level, AMC should be in a better place quarter after quarter from here. But that doesn't even matter in regards to what's going to move AMC stock in a bigger way. And that is obviously the court case that we are waiting to get new details on. And who knows when that will come. It could be around the corner. It could be a month from now until we get new information. But by and large, that's what is going to really send this rally home, in my personal opinion. Now, these rallies that we get after earnings, they tend to be on the magnitude of 50 to 150%. Sometimes they're larger than that. But that's a rough average for you guys. And we're going to take a look through previous earnings with AMC and look at some of these percentages. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Last earnings, you actually hit a low before earnings, and you fell after earnings. So this time around, you had the run up into earnings, and then you fell after earnings, falling about 6%. Then it was 8%, then it was 7%. And this was because Adam Aaron announced that they're going to be essentially selling ape and wanting to do this conversion to convert ape into common stock. This whole court situation that we're facing now started with the last earnings with AMC. So keep that in mind. I think that's the reason why AMC kind of rallied into earnings and then fell after earnings. Now, November 2022 earnings. You fell right after earnings, about 8% that next day. From the low to the peak of the rally that you've seen after earnings was about 81%. And you rallied the next 3 days after earnings. And it was a almost 20% rally 2 days in a row. And then another 2% rally, you trended sideways, and then you've seen another 13% day, and that is what capped off that rally. Again, like an 80% rally. Back here in August of 2022, AMC kind of rallied heading into earnings, 6%, 10%, and 8%. And then you were in a very volatile place the day of earnings. The next day after, you rallied 18%. And it was off to the races. The low before earnings to the peak after earnings was a rally of about 95%. Now, back here, you kind of sold off into earnings, and then you bounced after earnings. You didn't rally too big in comparison to the other rallies that we're going to look at, but you still rallied about 66% from the low of earnings about 2 weeks after that. So if you had bought on earnings, you got handsomely rewarded. Back here in March of 2022, when shit was really hitting the fan, for a lack of a better word, AMC reported earnings and they fell consistently about 3% after earnings, 8% after that, another 8% after that, 2.5%, 7%, 5%, and then you bottomed out basically a week after earnings. From that bottoming moment until the peak in March, you rallied 167%. And this was a total time frame from the day after earnings to the peak of 19 trading days. So not very long. It kind of starts pretty shortly after earnings. Now, this time in November was really the first time that you really didn't rally too big. So after earnings in November of 2021, you fell for the next 2 days, down 11% the day after, down 4% the day after that. You bottomed out 2 days after earnings, and then you rallied about 20% to the peak, and then you started to fall from there, and we have not seen those levels ever since. So this is the smallest rally in November of 2021, and if that tells you anything, that's when really small caps were the first ones kind of going down the toilet at that moment in time. I'm sure all of you guys remember if you're invested in small cap stocks such as AMC. Not a very nice time in the markets, although the indexes like the S&P 500 and Apple were hitting highs. Most of the market was not. Now, back here in August of 2021, AMC stock fell after earnings 6%, fell the next day 0.5%, and bottomed out on that 0.5% down day to rally to the peak about 21 trading days later, up about 80%. So clearly a correlation here. Now back here in May of 2021, obviously this is pretty well-known history. The day after earnings, AMC rallied 6% and kind of continued to rally. And from this point to the June rally was about 16 trading days, and you rallied all in all about 750%. Before that, in March of 2021, the day after earnings, the day after earnings, AMC dropped about 6%. Following that 6% drop, go ahead and pull it up. You rallied about 54% about 5 trading days later. So I think the history is on our side here. the AMC typically does rally after earnings. And I think a lot of people just overall short AMC heading into earnings, and then they kind of like, hey, it's not as bad as what we thought. There's not a bankruptcy announcement. There's nothing that's fundamentally getting that much worse. You know, they're still running through capital, but it's not like the stock's going bankrupt right now. And then you get a rally from there. And this time looks to be no different. Now, if we hold this formation throughout the rest of the day today, this is another hammer stick or hammer candlestick, right? So this would be very bullish. This is the same candlestick that we just did on the low of April 24th, in which we went over. This has been about a 30% rally from the low of this day. So even if we were to rally another 30% from here and just repeat what just happened, that would put AMC stock at about $7.40 per share. And I think the simple fact of we're not down big today is a positive thing. But keep in mind, I thought we would rally today 10 to 15%. I also thought at the worst case scenario, you'd fall about 10%. Or the bearish outcome of today, you'd fall about 10%. And you're not getting any of that. AMC stock is up 0.5%. Pretty muted day overall. And that's just going to make for the next court update that we get to be that much more important. So that's kind of what we're dealing with right now as far as the rally. I do still think it's coming. And I think the fact today is not red is a pretty telling sign. Now, let's get into some of the Ortex data here with AMC, and a number that we like to look at as of recently a lot more. The total dollar amount sold short in AMC is $773 million. This is up in the past week quite a bit. If we go ahead and look, from $742 million to $773 million. So what? That's an increase of like $33 million on the week alone. So I do think, you know, again, that's positive for squeezing shorts out of short positions. Now, estimated short interest of free float at 25.29%, 33% free float out on loan. Shares out on loan 170 million. Days to cover at 4.88. Cost to borrow at 228.86%. And 100% share utilization. So there you have that. The option activity so far for the day, not too much, actually. You've seen 7 orders totaling $2.22 million, positive order value of 0%. So not a big day as far as, you know, option activity so far. As you guys do know, the labor report did come out today, as we talked about in the last video, and overall it was very strong. So what we've seen in 2023 so far is good economic data is good news and sends the markets higher. Bad economic data is bad news. Like in 2022, where you got good news is bad news is good news. That's no longer the case. And the markets are starting to price in, the bond market, I should say, a cut coming in June, right? At the next Fed meeting, they're starting to price that in. And that either means something has to hit the fans shortly, there has to be a big event to cause that, or markets have this wrong and you do trade lower from here. So I think even in terms of the collateral crisis, I don't know how much better it's going to get after a day like today where Apple is up over 4.5%. I don't know how much better it can get from here. So just be on the lookout for that as well. In the short term, could be a little bit of downside pressure for AMC. But in the midterm here, give it the next couple of months, I think you really start to see that collateral crisis ramping up quite a bit. So there you have that. Job growth totals 253,000 in April, beating expectations even as the U.S. economy slows. And you were at 3.4% for the unemployment rate, the lowest level since 1969. Average hourly earnings rose 0.5% for the month and increased 4.4% over a year ago, or from a year ago, both higher than expected. So kind of some mixed data there. Obviously, good data for the overall economy, bad data for this narrative of getting the Fed to pause. The Fed's not going to pause when the unemployment rate is at a 70, 80-year low, right? It's just not going to happen. That's very optimistic to think the Fed would do that, or 65-year low, I believe. That's very optimistic, and it's not going to happen. So watch for that downside in the markets from here. Now, for today, you're seeing about 35,000 calls currently in the money with AMC stock. Out the money calls at 140,000. In the money puts at 26,000. Out the money puts at 136,000. As well as for next week, you have 18,000 calls in the money, 53,000 calls out the money, 17,000 puts in the money, and 92,500 puts that are out of the money. The next big option expiration is going to be May 19th, where you have 52,000 calls in the money, 302,000 calls out the money. In the money puts at 193,000, out the money puts at 313,000. So definitely a lot of option activity from, now over the next 2 weeks or so here. And that would be the time period in which I would expect this earnings rally to kind of kick into full steam ahead here, guys. So let me know what you guys think about this down below in the comment section. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and source your comments, questions, or concerns down below in the comment section. If you guys also want to come trade with me live in real time, link down below in the description of this video as well. We would love to have you over there. Nonetheless, enjoy your weekends, and I will see you in the next one.